When I tell people my cousin married my husband, they think I'm exaggerating. But the truth is much darker than that. She didn't just take my husband. She took my medical records, switched my HIV test with a positive one, and watched my life crumble, smiling the whole time. I'm Lydia Carter, 33, a registered nurse from Austin, Texas. And this is how someone I once called my sister, my cousin Sabrina, destroyed my marriage, my name, and almost my sanity, until the day I handed her a wedding gift that made her collapse in front of hundreds of guests. I still remember that day. The air felt heavy, like something inside me knew the world was about to shift. I was standing at the back of the reception hall, dressed in a soft lavender dress that blended too easily into the crowd. I didn't belong there, not after what she'd done. But I came anyway, not out of jealousy, not revenge, closure. Sabrina stood at the altar, radiant in white, her hand clutching Ethan's. My ex-husband. Yes, my husband. The man I had loved since college, the man I trusted more than anyone on earth. The guests whispered when they saw me. Some stared, some smiled awkwardly. A few turned away, pretending not to know the story. But they all did. Everyone had heard it. Lydia Carter, the nurse who hid her HIV and infected her husband, a lie that spread faster than any virus, and the woman who started it, my own blood, stood under fairy lights, pretending to be a bride glowing with happiness. When she raised her glass for a toast, her voice carried through the hall. Some people, she said with that poisonous smile, are just unlucky in love and health. Laughter rippled across the tables. Even Ethan smiled faintly, that weak, uncertain smile of a man who didn't want to face the truth. I just sat there quietly, my fingers brushing the edge of a small silver gift box on my lap. I had wrapped it carefully. White satin ribbon, silver foil paper, elegant enough to blend with the wedding theme. Inside that box wasn't jewelry. It wasn't a card. It was truth. And I was about to give it back to the woman who tried to bury mine. But before that moment, before everything fell apart, I want you to understand how we got here. Because people always ask me, didn't you see it coming? And the truth is, no. You don't expect betrayal from the person who used to braid your hair before school. You don't expect hate from someone who once cried when your mother died. Sabrina and I were cousins, but we grew up like sisters. Her parents passed when she was young, and my mom took her in during summers. We shared clothes, secrets, dreams. When my mom died, Sabrina was the one who held my hand at the funeral. She told me we'd always have each other, no matter what. And for years, I believed her. When I met Ethan in college, quiet, charming, the kind of guy who listened when you spoke. She was the first person I called. She squealed, teased, asked for pictures. At our wedding, she was my maid of honor. I can still see her in photos. Standing beside me, her smile so wide, it almost looked real. Back then, I thought it was love. Now I realize it was envy. Perfectly disguised. Southyorn. The signs were there, hidden beneath laughter and hugs. Like the time she said, "You're so lucky, Lydia. Guys like Ethan don't come around twice." Or the day she showed up at our house unannounced, too often, too comfortable. Still, I never imagined she'd go that far, because you never think the person sharing your dinner table will someday poison your life with a single forged paper. So as she clinked her champagne glass and the crowd cheered, I felt something inside me settle. No rage, no sadness, just calm. The kind that comes when you finally stop being afraid. When the laughter faded, I stood up. Every head turned. Ethan froze. Sabrina's smile stiffened. I walked toward them slowly, heels echoing against the marble floor. My voice didn't shake. "Congratulations, Sabrina," I said. "I brought you a gift. I think you'll want to open it in front of everyone." She blinked, confused, but confident. Because for her, I was the broken one. The ex-wife who lost everything. She didn't know yet that in that little silver box lay the proof, the one thing she could never twist, hide, or deny, the one truth that would make her world collapse the way she made mine. And that was the moment my story really began. Before everything turned poisonous, my life was simple. I used to wake up at 6 a.m., make coffee for Ethan, and drive to St. Clair Hospital, where I worked in the pediatric wing. I loved that place. The smell of disinfectant mixed with baby powder, the soft hum of monitors, the tiny socks taped to incubators. Kids didn't fake emotions. They either loved you or cried at you, both honest in their own way. Honesty. That used to mean something to me. Ethan and I lived in a modest 2-bedroom apartment downtown. He worked from home as a software engineer, usually glued to his dual monitors, muttering about code and caffeine. On Fridays, we'd cook dinner together. Him chopping onions way too slow, me teasing him for crying over them. Our friends called us boring married people, but we were fine with that. There was safety in our routine. Trust felt like oxygen, invisible, taken for granted, until it's gone. We were trying for a baby that year. Every negative test stung a little, but Ethan always pulled me close and said, "It'll happen when it's meant to, Lyd. Don't stress." He never called me Lydia. Always Lyd. It sounded like home. And then there was Sabrina, my cousin, my almost sister. She lived just 20 minutes away. After her breakup with some guy named Marcus, she started coming over more often. At first, it felt nice, like old times. She'd help me fold laundry, bring wine, tell stories about terrible dates. "You're lucky you've got Ethan," she'd say, swirling her glass. "Most guys these days don't even text back." I'd laugh, trying to lift her mood. "You'll find someone better. You always do." But the way she looked at me sometimes, her smile never reaching her eyes, it left me uneasy, though I couldn't explain why. Sabrina worked part-time in the same hospital, in the administration office. She wasn't highly educated, but she was clever. Quick with computers, always finding shortcuts. Everyone liked her because she was funny, flirty, charming. I used to admire that confidence. Moments stick out now in hindsight, like warning signs I ignored. One evening she arrived uninvited, just as Ethan and I were setting the table. She slipped off her coat, laughed, and said, "Hope I'm not interrupting date night." She sat between us, pouring herself a drink, talking about work gossip. When she left, Ethan said casually, "She's really been around a lot lately, huh?" I shrugged. "She's lonely." We had no idea why she wanted to be near us, not until much later. Life went on. Bills, deadlines, double shifts, normal things that distract you from noticing cracks forming underneath. Then the hospital announced mandatory routine health screenings for all staff, blood work, immunity updates, and HIV tests. Standard procedure. Nothing alarming. I'd done dozens of them before. The day of my test, Sabrina happened to be on shift in the admin office, handling record transfers. She winked when I walked past her desk. "Don't worry, Nurse Carter. I'll make sure your paperwork doesn't get lost in the pile." I smiled, grateful, completely unaware that she was about to use that paperwork to destroy me. A week later, I came home to find Ethan sitting on the couch, pale and trembling, a sheet of paper in his hands. But that moment belongs to the next part of this story, the part where everything starts breaking. Right now, I want you to understand why it hit me so hard. Because we weren't perfect, but we were real. We argued about dishes, laughed over burnt pancakes, danced in the living room when old songs played. And Sabrina had been there through all of it, watching, smiling, absorbing every detail of what happiness looked like. When you grow up with someone, you never imagine they'll be your downfall. You think blood protects you. But sometimes, blood is the weapon. If you'd met me then, before the betrayal, you'd have seen an ordinary woman with steady eyes and quiet dreams, a woman who believed hard work and kindness were enough to keep her world safe. But behind every smile, Sabrina gave me behind every "love you, sis," there was a plan forming, a plan to make me look like a monster. And while I was busy saving children's lives, she was preparing to take mine apart piece by piece. When people talk about betrayal, they usually picture cheating or lies. But the deepest betrayal isn't when someone hurts you. It's when they make everyone else believe you deserved it. I didn't know yet that my test results, my name, were already sitting on Sabrina's desk, waiting for her to rewrite them. I didn't know she'd soon be wearing my husband's ring, telling the world I was diseased. At that time, I was still making coffee for Ethan, still believing family means safety, still blind, still trusting, still Lydia. Before everything changed, it started with silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that fills a room when someone has already made a decision they're too afraid to say out loud. I came home from a double shift, exhausted, still in my scrubs. The lights were dim, the TV off, and Ethan sat on the couch holding a single sheet of paper. His hands were shaking. His eyes were red. "Ethan," I asked softly, setting down my bag, "what's wrong?" He didn't answer. He just looked at me like I was a stranger. Finally, he spoke, voice tight and trembling. "How long have you known?" I frowned. "Known what?" He threw the paper on the table. "Don't lie to me, Lydia. The results came in from the hospital. You're positive." For a second, the words didn't make sense. Positive? I picked up the paper. My name, my ID, my date of birth, and next to HIV test result, the word positive burned like fire. My stomach dropped. This isn't possible," I stammered. "I had that test last week. It was just routine screening." Ethan stepped back from me, literally stepped back, as if I was suddenly dangerous. That small movement hurt more than any word could. "I thought we were honest with each other," he whispered. "God, Lydia, how could you not tell me?" Tears stung my eyes. "Because there's nothing to tell. This isn't mine. I'm not— Ethan, please, I swear." But he was already walking away. The next day, I marched into the hospital's lab office, clutching the report. I worked there. I knew procedures. I knew something was wrong. The supervisor, Dr. Ramirez, looked through the files. "That's strange," he murmured. "Your original sample ID was logged under a different barcode." He clicked a few more keys, his eyebrows furrowed. "Looks like it was switched. The timestamp doesn't match." I leaned forward, heart pounding. "Switched? By who?" He hesitated. "It says administrative edit. Someone from data handling must have corrected it manually." Administrative? That was Sabrina's department. I froze, whispering, "Who logged in last?" "That day?" He checked the screen. "Sabrina Nolan." I swear my heart stopped. I walked out of that office in a blur, my pulse in my ears, my world tilting. All the pieces suddenly made sense. The jokes, the subtle digs, the timing of her visits, the way she comforted Ethan after he left. She had taken my life, literally, and rewritten it in a computer. I called Ethan that night, desperate to explain. "Ethan, listen to me. It was Sabrina. She works in admin. She must have—" "Stop, Lydia." His voice was cold. "You're really going to blame your cousin now?" "I'm not blaming her. I'm telling you the truth." "Then why would the hospital confirm it? Why would they send me proof?" My throat burned. "Because she forged it. I can get it checked. I need time," he said, cutting me off. "I can't do this right now." Click. The call ended. Just like that. 5 years of marriage silenced with one word. It turned into weeks. He moved out quietly, taking half our things. Neighbors avoided me. Friends stopped calling. Even some coworkers looked at me differently, whispering, stepping back as if rumors were contagious. And then, one afternoon, Sabrina showed up at my apartment with a soft knock and a fake concerned smile. "Hey, cousin," she said sweetly. "I heard about Ethan. I'm so sorry. I can't imagine what you're going through." I stared at her, my hands trembling. "You did this." She blinked innocently. "What are you talking about?" "Don't play dumb, Sabrina. You switched my test. You used my name, my ID." Her smile widened. "Lydia, please, you're upset. You should rest. People make mistakes. Maybe the hospital—" "I saw the logs. It was your login. You were the last one in the system that day." For the briefest moment, her face changed. Not guilt, not fear, amusement. Then she tilted her head. "You're really going to accuse me? After everything I've done to help you?" I felt my chest tighten. "Why, Sabrina? Why me?" She leaned closer, whispering, "Because you had everything, and I had nothing." Then she smiled, turned around, and left. Her perfume lingered long after she was gone. Sweet heavy, suffocating. 2 months later, Ethan stopped answering my texts altogether. A mutual friend accidentally let it slip that Sabrina was helping him through the breakup. Helping him. She had moved in with him. That night, I sat in my car outside their apartment building, watching the light from his window flicker. Her silhouette passed behind the curtain. I realized I wasn't crying anymore. The tears had burned out. Something colder replaced them. Something sharper. Not revenge. Not yet. But resolve. If she could rewrite my story, I could reclaim it. And one day soon, the truth would find her. The same way she found me. Grief has a strange rhythm. At first it screams, then it whispers, then one day it just goes quiet. After Ethan left, my world stopped making sense. The apartment felt hollow. His mug still on the shelf, his jacket on the hook, his scent fading slower than the love that used to fill the air. For weeks I moved like a ghost. Work, shower, sleep, repeat. People at the hospital avoided eye contact. A few whispered behind clipboards. I heard words like infection, husband, and cover-up. I kept my head down. I had no one left to defend me. But the silence did something unexpected. It cleared space for clarity. I started thinking not about what I lost, but what I still had. Proof. And one Sunday morning, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by papers. Lab reports, test dates, log screenshots I'd secretly printed before the hospital revoked my system access. Every file had one thing in common. Sabrina's name appeared in the system logs at times that didn't match her schedule. I stared at the timestamps until my eyes blurred. Then I noticed something. A second audit trail. A digital shadow. The IT department's archive had automatic backups of every admin edit. I still had friends in IT. That Monday, I called Tom Bennett, one of the technicians who owed me a favor after I'd helped his daughter get fast-tracked for surgery last year. "Tom, it's Lydia Carter." A pause. "Hey, Lydia, haven't heard from you. You doing okay?" "Not really. I need to check an archive from March 17th. Data edits under Sabrina Nolan's profile. Can you pull that for me?" He hesitated. "That's confidential." "Please, Tom. I wouldn't ask if it wasn't life or death." 2 days later, a manila envelope appeared in my locker with no name. Inside were printed audit logs showing the exact moment Sabrina switched my test ID with another patient's. A male patient, HIV positive, who had tested that same morning. I sat there staring at it until my hands went numb. There it was, the truth, time-stamped and signed by her login credentials. For the first time in months, I felt something powerful. Control. I called my lawyer friend Hannah, who worked in compliance. "Can I press charges?" I asked. She sighed. "Technically, yes, but she can claim it was a clerical error. It'll be her word against yours. Hospitals bury mistakes fast. Even when it destroyed my marriage? Especially then." I realized legal justice might never come, but moral justice, that was still mine to deliver. So I planned quietly. No drama, no threats. I gathered everything, my own repeated test results, all negative, signed by the chief pathologist, and the forged one Sabrina created. I even obtained the test belonging to the man whose result she'd used. It wasn't just proof, it was a mirror, waiting for her to look into it. 3 months later, I got an invitation in the mail, cream-colored, embossed with gold leaves. The wedding of Ethan James Carter and Sabrina Marie Nolan. I sat there, the card trembling in my hands. She had actually done it. She was marrying the man whose life she stole from me. People expected me to fall apart again. Instead, I smiled. That invitation wasn't an insult. It was an opportunity. I bought a small, elegant silver box with a white satin ribbon, something understated but impossible to ignore. Inside, I placed the real documents. My genuine test results, all negative. The audit trail proving Sabrina switched the files. And at the very top, a certified copy of Sabrina's own recent screening, which revealed something she'd kept hidden. It wasn't just my name she had stolen that day. She had also accidentally exposed herself. Her own test, the one she thought nobody would ever see, was positive. Yeah, when my friend Claire found out I was attending the wedding, she begged me not to go. Lydia, it's not worth it. Don't give her the satisfaction. I smiled. I'm not going for her. I'm going for me. I spent that night rehearsing what I'd say. Every word measured, every breath controlled. No anger, no tears, just truth. The morning of the wedding, I stood before the mirror wearing a lavender dress. The same color I'd worn the day Ethan married me 5 years earlier. But this time, it wasn't for love. It was for closure. I looked at myself, steady, calm, alive again, and whispered, "She stole your story once. Today, you're taking it back." As I walked out the door, the silver box in my hands felt lighter than it should have. It didn't carry revenge. It carried release. Because I wasn't the broken woman who cried over forged papers anymore. I was the woman who held the truth and the courage to hand it back, wrapped neatly in silver paper and satin ribbon. And that's exactly what I planned to do when she said, "Some people are just unlucky in love and health." Only this time, the joke wouldn't be on me. The church smelled of roses and expensive perfume, the kind that clings to silk dresses and false smiles. I arrived alone, carrying nothing but a silver box. Every head turned when I walked in. Whispers followed like shadows. "Is that her? The cousin? The one who—" They never finished the sentence, but I could feel the accusation in every glance. I took a seat near the back, where the chandeliers threw soft light over polished marble floors. At the altar stood Ethan, handsome as ever in a dark gray suit, adjusting his tie nervously. And beside him, radiant, smug, victorious, was Sabrina, the woman who had turned my life into a rumor. Her wedding dress sparkled under the light. I remembered, when we were kids, how she used to steal my dresses and say, "You always look better in blue, not white." Now she was proving it. As the ceremony began, I watched in silence. Every word, love, honesty, forever, sounded like a cruel joke, but I didn't flinch. I just waited. When the priest said, "You may now kiss the bride," the crowd erupted in applause. Sabrina's smile could have lit the entire room. She looked straight at me as she kissed him, like it was another victory. I smiled back, calm, controlled. At the reception, the music blared, laughter echoed, and champagne flowed. I waited until the toasts. Sabrina stood with a microphone in hand, her new diamond ring glittering. "I just want to thank everyone who supported us," she began sweetly, eyes darting toward me. "You all know, life doesn't always go the way we plan. Some people are just unlucky in love and health." Laughter rippled through the crowd. Even Ethan forced a smile, though his eyes flickered uneasily. The words sliced through me like glass. But instead of pain, I felt peace, because I knew what was coming. When the laughter faded, I stood up. Chairs creaked, heads turned. Sabrina's eyes widened slightly, her confidence faltering for the first time. I walked toward the stage, heels echoing against the floor, holding the silver box. "Congratulations, Sabrina," I said evenly. "I brought you a gift. You should open it here, in front of everyone." The room fell silent. She hesitated, looking at Ethan, then back at me. Her voice was shaky but defiant. "Lydia, I don't think this is the time." "No," I said quietly. "It's exactly the time." I placed the box on the table and stepped back. She stared at it for a long second, then forced a smirk. "Fine," she said, laughing nervously. "Let's see what my favorite cousin got me." The crowd leaned in. She untied the satin ribbon, peeled away the foil paper, and opened the lid. Inside lay a neat stack of documents. Her own forged edits, the audit trail with her name, and the real test results. The laughter died instantly. Her eyes scanned the pages, once, twice, and her hands began to shake. The color drained from her face. What is this?" she whispered. I met her gaze. "That's the truth, Sabrina. My truth, and yours." She fumbled through the pages, her voice cracking. This can't be right." Ethan reached over, grabbing one of the papers. He read the top line. "Patient, Sabrina Nolan. Result, HIV positive." The room froze. Gasps filled the air like a wave crashing through silence. A woman in the front row covered her mouth. A man whispered, "Oh my God." Ethan's hands trembled. He turned to her. "Sabrina, what is this?" Tears streamed down her cheeks as she shook her head wildly. "It's a mistake. She's lying. She made this up." I took a deep breath. "You said that about me too, remember?" Ethan's voice rose, raw and furious. "Did you switch her test? Tell me the truth, Sabrina." She broke down, sobbing. "I didn't mean for it to go that far. I loved you. She had everything. I just wanted you to see me." The room erupted. Whispers, gasps, phones recording, the perfect wedding collapsing in real time. I turned to leave. Behind me, Sabrina screamed, "Lydia, please, wait!" I paused at the door and looked back one last time. She was on her knees, mascara running, Ethan standing frozen beside her, the truth spread across the table like broken glass. "You said some people are unlucky in love and health," I said softly. "Turns out you were right." Then I walked out. No applause, no revenge speech, just silence and the faint sound of my heels against marble, the sound of freedom. Outside, the evening air was cool and quiet. I stood under the streetlight, feeling lighter than I had in months. I didn't destroy her. She did that herself. All I did was hand her the truth, and sometimes that's the most powerful revenge there is. The morning after the wedding felt strangely quiet. No tears, no rage, just a stillness I hadn't felt in months, like the world had finally exhaled. For the first time in a long time, I slept through the night. No nightmares, no replaying old arguments, no imagining what I could have said differently, because I had said everything that needed to be said, without shouting, without hate, without lowering myself to her level. Truth had done the talking for me. By Monday, the video of the wedding confrontation had spread through town. Someone had filmed it, of course they did, and posted it online. Within hours, it was everywhere. Sabrina's perfect fairy tale had shattered before an audience larger than her guest list. The hospital board launched an internal review after the exposure. They confirmed what I already knew: the login trail, the forged results, the falsified signatures. Sabrina was fired immediately, her license revoked, her career gone, just like the empathy she'd lost long ago. Ethan resigned a week later. He called me once, just once, his voice flat and defeated. "Lydia, I don't know what to say." I didn't make it easy for him. "Say nothing. You already said enough when you walked away." He tried to explain that he was confused, that he thought he was protecting himself, that he believed what he saw on paper. But the thing about trust is, once it breaks, no amount of paper can fix it. "You didn't lose me because of her," I told him. "You lost me because you didn't stop to ask if I needed to be heard." And that was the last time we spoke. Months passed. I left the hospital. Too many memories in those hallways. I transferred to a small community clinic on the east side, working with women who'd been through trauma, betrayal, or illness. They came in carrying secrets, guilt, fear, just like I once did. And every time I saw that look in their eyes, I reminded them gently, the truth has a way of surviving, even when people try to bury it. One of my patients, a young woman named Erica, told me she was afraid to get tested for HIV because of the stigma. I sat beside her and said, "You're not defined by a result. You're defined by what you do with the truth." That became my purpose, helping others face what I once feared. Brina, I never saw her again. I heard she moved away after Ethan left her. She tried to rebuild her life quietly, but people remembered. The internet never forgets. Part of me wanted to hate her forever, but hate is heavy. It keeps you tied to the very pain you're trying to escape. One evening, while organizing files at the clinic, I found a photo, an old one of us at my wedding. We were laughing, arms around each other. Back then, before envy grew teeth. I stared at it for a long time. Then I did something unexpected. I smiled, because I realized forgiveness isn't about saying, what you did was okay. It's about saying, you don't control me anymore. So I let her go. Not with revenge, not with pity, with peace. Sometimes, patients ask if I ever found love again. I tell them yes, but not in the way they think. I found it in my work, in my strength, in the quiet mornings where I drink coffee alone and don't feel lonely anymore, in the knowledge that I survived the kind of betrayal that could have broken anyone and turned it into purpose. Because truth doesn't just set you free, it rebuilds you, piece by piece, until one day you wake up and realize the story that was meant to destroy you has become the story that defines your strength. A few months ago, I received an anonymous envelope at the clinic. Inside was a single note, no name, no return address. It said, "I'm sorry for everything. I hope you're happy now." The handwriting was familiar, Sabrina's. I folded the note gently and slipped it into my desk drawer, not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that even the cruelest people can face their truth eventually. Now, when people hear my story, they always ask, would you do it all again? Would you still hand her that box? And I always answer the same way. Yes, because the truth deserved to be seen, even if it broke her. I pause, smile, and add, she tried to rewrite my life with lies. I finished it with truth. Then I look at them, calm, certain, free, and say the line that has become my lesson, my closure, and my peace. Forgiveness isn't about letting them go, it's about letting yourself heal, knowing they'll never hurt you again. If this story touched your heart, remember this: truth might hurt, but it always heals. No matter how broken you feel, no one has the power to define your worth but you. So, if you've ever been betrayed, lied to, or silenced, I want you to know you're not alone. Your pain has a purpose. Your scars tell a story that someone else needs to hear. If you found meaning in my story, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, and tell me your thoughts in the comments below. Your words might be the reason someone else keeps going. And if you want more real, raw stories of strength, truth, and redemption, subscribe to the channel and turn on the bell icon so you never miss what comes next. Truth doesn't destroy people. Lies do.